Okay, welcome back to all of you guys. Now that we have done meditation together 3 times over the course of the last 1.5 days, I'm going to actually teach you meditation so that you understand all the ins and outs of meditation. And then if we have time, we'll finish off our afternoon with some meditation so you guys can get another opportunity to practice meditation. As I mentioned to you, each morning and afternoon, we're going to be doing meditation, give you guys some momentum going into next week where you can continue your meditation practice and continue to reap the benefits of meditating each day. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is part of the right concentration that we were talking about before lunch. It's part of the Eightfold Path. This is what's going to help you to develop your mindfulness or awareness of mind and be able to apply that right effort in the situations where anger is arising, frustrations are rising, other unwholesome qualities are rising. You see yourself judging somebody where you're maybe looking down on them and thinking of them as less of a person. You can cut that off and let it go. So I'm going to teach you guys the ins and outs of this. But first, let's just talk about some meditation basics. Let me fix something real quick. Let's see the computer. It's not doing something. Okay, there we go. But first, let's just talk about the meditation basics. This is just to kind of give you guys a definition of meditation, because the way that you think about meditation and the way I think about meditation could be different because of impermanence. So this is the way that I'm describing meditation to be able to help you guys understand what it is that I'm talking about. Meditation is a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. You're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And this is done in the seated, lying, standing, or walking positions. I'm going to teach you each of these 4 positions so that you can build your tool belt and have these tools available to you at different times. It's also important to understand what meditation is not, because that's going to help you understand what meditation is. Meditation is not driving the car, exercising, walking the dog, gardening, things like this. Sometimes people say, oh, honey, I'm going to go to the gym and meditate, or I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate. While these things might be fun for you, you might be interested in doing these things that could be very beneficial for you, it's important not to see them as meditation. Because here in a moment, you're going to hear me mention to you that I recommend 2 or 3 meditations per day. And if you just went and walked the dog 2 or 3 times a day thinking you were meditating, how could you get to enlightenment if that's what you were doing and you weren't actually eliminating unwholesome qualities and cultivating wholesome qualities? So while these things may be something that you're interested in doing, it's important to not see them as meditation, even though other people might be calling them meditation. You're going to need a meditation teacher to help you in your journey on the path to enlightenment. That only a Buddha would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. So you're going to need to have somebody that you can reach out to and get help from time to time. Whether you consider that person to meet me or somebody else, it's up to you, but you're going to need somebody to reach out to. There's been situations where people haven't done that and they've run into all kinds of problems and all kinds of difficulties. I'm going to give you an example of one just so you're aware of this, of what can happen. And then I'm sure you're not going to experience any of these situations because you're going to know that it's wise to have a teacher. There was one time an individual that was trying to get to enlightenment by themselves, and they ended up reaching out to me to be able to get help. But for the first 2 years, without them knowing that they needed a teacher, they were watching YouTube videos, they were reading books and all these kinds of things, not realizing that you can't get to enlightenment by yourself. Because nowadays, if you'd like to bake a cake or learn how to iron clothes or learn guitar, you could probably find a YouTube video to be able to help you to do that. But with something like the path to enlightenment, that's not the way this works at all. So this individual was reading books, watching YouTube videos. He's actually a practicing doctor. He's a physician. And he got to a point where he was sleeping 23 hours a day. He couldn't go to work anymore. He was having obsessive thoughts. He was having suicidal thoughts. His relationship with his fiancée was falling apart. He was having all kinds of difficulties. And for one reason or another, he was able to get in touch with me, and I let him know that what he was doing was unwise, that he needed help and he needed guidance. So his case was really challenging, and I tried to help him online, but it wasn't really working out so well. So I invited him to come to Thailand, and he came here and he spent a little bit of time. He eventually went back home and he worked himself out of this problem. He got back to work. He didn't have suicidal thoughts anymore. He was sleeping normal and all this kind of stuff. But nonetheless, for about 4 to 6 years, his life was quite miserable. He had a lot of challenges. Now, as I mentioned, I don't think that you'll ever have these issues, because you understand it's wise to have a teacher and have guides along the path. But this is an example of what can happen if you don't have a teacher, is that your mind can kind of implode on itself, because there's going to be times where you're experiencing things in meditation and you're going to need to reach out to somebody and ask questions. And if what you get back from me is, this is normal, just keep going, that can give you some reassurance. It can give you some confidence that you're headed in the right direction. But you can't ask questions to a book. So it would be very unwise to just be out there on your own trying to get to enlightenment. You're going to need teachers and guides and people to help you along the way. And then in terms of your meditation positions, there's 4 positions to meditate in. I'm going to teach you these 4 different positions, and then I'm going to share with you how I use these positions, and you might decide to use these in the same way as well. But remember, everything you're learning, you're not interested in believing it. So as I share it with you, you take this in as information, but then you reflect on it and then you practice it and see the truth for yourself so that you can figure out what works best for you in any given situation. So these 4 positions, the seated position for me has always been the go-to position. This has been the primary position. It's really accessible. It's really easy to use. Probably a good 80% of my meditation has been in the seated position. This is where you're sitting on the floor, you're sitting in a chair, you might be on a bench or a wheelchair or a sofa or something like this. You would like to just sit. And if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your ear with your legs lightly crossed. Some people like to put their legs off the mat to get their hips up in the air and lessen the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. If you're in a chair or something like this, you might sit with your feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. But you can see I'm in a chair with my legs crossed, so this actually works too. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But there's other options here too. Some people might put their hands on their thighs or their knees, their palms up, resting their hands comfortably in their lap. You can really put them wherever you like, whether you're in a chair or on the floor or anything like that. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So this is like the go-to position. And this is where you can do this sitting just about anywhere. You're sitting at a bus stop, you're sitting at a doctor's office, you're sitting at home, you can be meditating. But then when you're in the seated position, you might notice aches and pains at different times, like your lower back might be hurting, your hips might be hurting, your knees might be hurting. You can adjust your position, like in your actual seated position, you can kind of, adjust and try to get comfortable. But if you can't get comfortable for any reason, that's where the lying position comes in. You can lie on the floor with your face up and your arms out to the side. Some people call this resting pose or corpse pose or shavasana. This is a yoga terms that they use in yoga. This will relax all the muscles in the body. What you're doing with the mind is exactly the same. It's just that your body's in a different position, resting all the muscles. But now in the seated and lying position, you might notice that you have a tendency to fall asleep. And if you're noticing that, that's where the standing position and the walking position comes in. I'm going to teach you walking meditation tomorrow. The standing position is where you just stand up with your feet next to each other and you clasp your wrist in front of you just lightly or behind you, or you can put your arms along the side. And in the standing position, you do the same thing with the mind. It's just that the mind tends to be more active and more attentive because now you're standing. You could use this, like I mentioned, if you're falling asleep, but I've even used it at like a bus stop where I knew there was a bus coming, but it wasn't going to be there for 15, 20 minutes, and I didn't have anywhere to sit. I would just stand there and meditate. I might not consider it one of my 2 or 3 meditations, but it was like a little touch-up meditation, maybe 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I might even use it like at a government office where I'm waiting in line, and now there's people that are in line in front of me, and this line only moves every 10 minutes or every 15 minutes. I might stand there and do a little bit of meditation in the standing position. So this is an option for you. And then that walking position, that one's also really good if your mind is falling asleep in your seated or lying position, but it's also good if you have an overactive mind. If your mind has a lot of energy in it and the last thing you're thinking about is sitting and being still somewhere, the walking position is good for you. You could use this before or after or during any of these other positions. And I'm going to explain that to you in more detail tomorrow, and we're going to actually do it together tomorrow. So you'll learn all about walking tomorrow. So these are the meditation basics. Now, in terms of conducting your meditation session, it's important to understand that the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. What I mean by this is, in order to see the boss, you've got to go through the employee. You got to make the employees comfortable so they'll go take you to go see the boss. Where if the employees are luxurious, they're going to be too lazy to take you to go see the boss. But if they're painful, they're not going to take you to go see the boss there either. So it's the same thing with the body. If the body is comfortable, it'll take you so that you can go train the mind. But if it was luxurious, you could have a tendency to fall asleep. But if it was painful, all you're going to be experiencing is pain, 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 pain. So sometimes you can hear people that will tell you, if you experience pain during meditation, they'll say just breathe through it and just, be one with the pain, observe the pain, welcome the pain in, all these kinds of things. This is very unwise. As you guys heard from the Buddha's life story yesterday, he caused himself lots of physical pain, hanging himself upside down from trees, laying on beds of nails, piercing his body with metal implements, starving himself. None of this stuff led to enlightenment. So sitting in meditation or any other position and experiencing pain, that's not the way to get to enlightenment. So you would like to be able to adjust the body or find a comfortable position. Otherwise, that's going to allow you to get access to the mind. Because if all you're experiencing is pain, 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 you're not going to be able to train the mind because all the mind's experiencing is pain in that situation. So remember that the mind is the boss, the body is the employee, and you need to go through the body in order to get to the mind, to get to the boss. When you look at the words of the Buddha about meditation, he talks about setting up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating. If you read his instructions and his guidance about meditation, he will explain to set up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating. This is essentially saying bring some awareness to your mind before you start meditating. For me, I use chanting in order to do this, where the opposite of setting up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating would be to just plop down into meditation and start meditating. And in this case, it's going to be 5, 10, 15 minutes before you start actually getting real benefit. But if you can ease the mind into meditation, and actually you'll get more benefit out of the meditation itself because you brought some awareness to the mind and awareness to the breath as you're easing into the meditation. So if you do chanting, great, you might decide to use that. But if you would like to do something else, feel free to do that. There's lots of different options out there, but you'd like to just bring your awareness of mind to so that you have awareness of your thoughts and your ideas as you're easing into meditation. You might be interested in understanding about time, frequency, and schedule of your meditation. What I encourage you to do is build up to 2 or 3 meditation sessions for 30 minutes or more. This is what you'd like to gradually build up to, realizing it's going to take 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years to build up to this. But let me ask you a question. Now that you know a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha, is it possible for you to meditate at exactly the same time every day? Like if you set like 8 a.m., can you meditate every single day at 8 a.m.? You guys are shaking your head no. Why? Because of impermanence, right? It's not going to be possible, right? So if you set up that kind of schedule for yourself, you already know that it's not going to happen, right? So the Buddha meditated morning, middle of the day, and evening. He didn't have a timepiece to be able to keep track of this. So sometimes you'll see people that say, oh, you got to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every single day. Well, I can assure you that there is nothing special going on at 3:30 a.m. that's going to make your meditation any better or any worse, right? And you already know you can't meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day, right? So if you have these anchor points where you know you're going to meditate in the morning, in the evening, and where you can, you get a middle of the day meditation in, this is going to get you to enlightenment. What you're going to notice is frequency is more important than duration. So if it's a matter of one meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, go for the 2 for 15. You're going to get much more benefit out of that because you're kind of hitting the mind multiple times during the day. And then just gradually expand that 15 minutes over the course of multiple months to be longer and longer. So you're not going to be able to meditate at exactly the same time each day. And you're going to need to have these anchor points where like somewhere in the morning you're going to meditate and somewhere in the evening you would like to meditate, and where you can get a middle of the day meditation in. If you do it this way, if you do the math about, let's just say you meditated 2 times a day. In a month, you're meditating about 60 times. Well, if you meditated 52 times, 53, 54, 55, you're still going to make your way to enlightenment. If you miss a meditation here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world. What's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not is, can you string together multiple months and multiple years of meditation? If you miss your one meditation today, that's not going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not. But instead, now that you've missed meditation, what do you do next? Do you allow that to be 1 week, 1 month, 1 year that you're not meditating? Or are you like, I missed meditation today. Let me get on that. And now you start meditating. So that's what you'd like to be able to do. If you're meditating in the evening before you go to sleep, you like to meditate before you get sleepy. So if you're usually going to sleep at 10 p.m., probably around 9:15, you'd like to be meditating. But that doesn't mean you can't meditate at 6 or 7 or 8 p.m., because you surely can. It's just that you like your mind to be attentive and alert for the meditation. So you're not interested in meditating at like 9:45 or 9:50, because your mind's not going to be attentive and alert during that period of time, because you're starting to experience sleepiness already. So you'd like to back that up a little bit. In terms of keeping track of the amount of time that you meditate for, I don't suggest that you use an alarm. Sometimes people are taught to use an alarm. If you use an alarm, there's going to be one of 2 things that are going to happen. You're going to be in meditation and you're going to be thinking, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? It's like your mind's craving, you're longing, yearning. And that's what you're trying to eliminate. So not using an alarm would be ideal. Or the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit. And then it's going to be like, and it's like, if I would have not just set that alarm, everything would have been fine. I could have gotten more benefit out of this, right? So the way that you keep track of your time in meditation is about once a week, you look at your clock. 9 a.m. You meditate. And now when you're done meditating, you look at your clock again. 9:15. Okay, been meditating for 15 minutes. Let me expand that a little bit next time, right? So you just work on gradually expanding it. But there might be certain situations where you have to use an alarm. Like maybe you're on your way to work and you only have 20 minutes to meditate. Okay, set your alarm. But maybe in the evenings or on the weekends, you don't need an alarm. Don't use an alarm. You're going to get so much more benefit out of it this way. Okay? As you're meditating, you might notice some sleepiness during your meditation. This is pretty common, especially when you first get started with meditation. Either sleepiness during the meditation or even during your day, you might notice some sleepiness. The reason why this is occurring is that even though you are sleeping for a certain number of hours right now, you might not be getting very good quality sleep. So when you start training your mind and it starts performing more optimally, you might notice that your mind has more of a tendency to sleep. It's kind of like a little hump that you have to get over, like a 3 to 6 month hump. It's kind of like a dry sponge and you're finally giving it water. And it's like, oh, thank you so much, right? Your mind's going to be thanking you that way. And it's going to be like, wow, I need to sleep because it's starting to perform more optimally. So if you're noticing you're getting sleepy during meditation, you could change your position to a standing or walking, or you could just get some sleep. Just get some rest, take a nap, right? Wake up 15, 20 minutes later or an hour later and do your meditation then. No need to force it and control it. Just get your sleep if that's what you need. Your mind's going to thank you for that. So you've got those options if you notice the sleepiness. And then you'll ultimately get over that hump and you'll notice that your mind will be more invigorated, more bright, more radiant during meditation and afterwards as well. Then you might notice physical sensations during the meditation. What this is like if you might have itches or scratches that you feel like you want to itch yourself, itch the body. If you're noticing this, what I suggest you do is stay focused on the breath. Don't allow the mind to itch, because it's going to be one after another, right? This is the mind craving for permanent comfort of the body. And what you're trying to do is train the mind to be comfortable with this impermanence. So if you're noticing an itch, just focus on the breath. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. But if you're 5 or 8 seconds into this and you're just urging to itch, okay, go ahead and itch. But then next time, make it 12 seconds or 15 seconds. And then if you have to itch, okay, you itch. But then make it 15, 20, 30 seconds. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where this impermanence doesn't affect you. That you're going to notice that itch arising, it changes, and then it fades away because it's impermanent. So try to stay focused on the breath and don't be affected by the impermanent nature of that itch that's arising. You might notice and experience visual stimulation during your meditation. What I mean by this is you might see different colors or different images during your meditation. You might see white or green or purple or something like this. Sometimes people contact me and they say, David, I saw green in my meditation. Does that mean I'm going to get rich? Or they'll say, oh, I saw purple during my meditation. Does that mean my boyfriend's going to come back to me? My girlfriend's going to come back to me? No, it doesn't mean any of that stuff. I'm going to explain to you what this is so that you'll understand it, because you're most likely going to experience this if you're developing your meditation practice in the way that I'm describing. What's happening is the physical structures of your brain are actually changing. The brain is one thing, and the mind is something completely different. The brain is the physical organs. The mind is non-physical. You can't actually touch it and you can't actually point to it. When you're training the mind, there's going to be physical structures of the brain that are actually changing. Doctors are telling us about this, researchers and scientists, because they're actually studying people who meditate. They're putting MRIs and CAT scans and things like this, and they can see that the physical structures of the brain are actually changing as a result of training the mind through meditation. And it's changing in a beneficial way. It's actually really helpful for the human being to have these changes take effect. The colors and the images, where this is coming from is the physical structures of the brain are changing, because sight is actually occurring inside the brain. It's actually not the eyeball that is actually experiencing the sight. The eye is just bringing in the light. The sight is occurring inside the brain. So that's why when your eyes are closed, you can still see things. You still have colors and images and things like this that you can see, because the sight is not occurring in the eye, it's actually occurring inside the brain. So as these physical structures of the brain are changing, you might notice these different colors or different images. You might even notice different sensations. When I was in meditation, I could actually hear the physical structures of the brain changing. It sounded like this. It was like, I used to walk around with a lot of pressure in my skull. I used to get migraine headaches about 3 to 5 times a week, to the point of vomiting sometimes. And after training the mind, all that pressure is gone. I no longer get migraine headaches and everything's just fine. So you might notice these physical structures of the brain changing, and this is able to be seen through the colors that you're experiencing inside when you're actually meditating. And if you ever get a CAT scan or MRI after training your mind for a long time, you might notice that the physical structures of the brain have actually changed. Okay? Then some people have been taught to meditate with external stimulus. What I mean by this is like beads or candles or incense or phone app or music or things like this. If you've been taught to meditate that way, that's what's led you to where you are today. But you're going to need to strip your meditation practice down to just 3 things. There's only 3 things that you actually need to meditate, and you're going to have these 3 things with you all the time. All you need to meditate is the body, the mind, and the breath. These are the only 3 things that you need: the body, the mind, and the breath. And you're going to have these 3 things with you all the time. And if you strip your practice down to just meditate with these 3 things, you can meditate anywhere, anytime. So if you're out in that park and you're walking around and you're like, wow, it's such a nice day, I'd like to sit down and meditate. Oh, I don't have my favorite candle with me. I can't meditate. Oh, man. Oh, I don't have my incense with me. I can't meditate. But if you practice to the point where all you need is the body, the mind, and the breath, when you're in that park having a great time and it's such a beautiful day and you'd like to sit down and meditate, there you go. You've got everything you need: the body, the mind, and the breath. So if you're currently meditating with these things, you can strip them out of your practice, but you might decide to do this gradually, because when you make big, abrupt changes in your life, your mind doesn't like it. Whenever you're experiencing any abrupt changes, it doesn't matter, not just meditation, but if you're changing your living location, you've had a boyfriend or girlfriend break up or something like this, you're changing your jobs, whenever you're having big, significant changes in your life, your mind doesn't like it. Because as you guys learned, your mind craves permanence. Another way to say that is your mind does not like impermanence. It does not like change in the unenlightened state, right? So if you're needing to change something about your life, getting rid of something that is unwholesome or unwise, if you do it gradually and slowly, your mind will appreciate this much more. So for example, if you're meditating every meditation with music, what I would suggest you do is one session with it, one session without it. One session with it, one session without it. One session with it, one session without it. Do that for like a week or two. Then do one session with it, 2 or 3 without it. One session with it, 2 or 3 without it. Do that for a week or two. And then again, one session with it, 3, 4, 5, 6 without it. Just gradually distance yourself more and more, making these little incremental changes. You can do this with your meditation practice, but anything unwholesome that you're trying to get rid of, you can do it the same way. Like say I was smoking cigarettes, right? If I was smoking 20 cigarettes a day, I would go down to 18 for a week or two. Get adjusted to that. Then go down to 15 for a week or two. Get adjusted to that. Then go down to 12 for a week or two. Get adjusted to that. And then gradually, this is a more sustainable change. Whereas if you try to go cold turkey on this stuff, your mind's going to be like, no, what are you doing to me? I don't like that, right? It's too abrupt, too quick. Right? And the same thing with wholesome things. If you're trying to bring something wholesome into your life, you can actually do this slowly and gradually, and your mind will appreciate this much more. Like say, for example, I was interested in switching to a plant-based food supply. You could do this gradually, where maybe one meal's with meat, one meal's with plants, one meal's with meat, one meal's with plants. Gradually build that up. And then maybe it's one meal with meat, 2 or 3 or 4 with plants, right? And you just gradually build this up because you're going to need to find certain recipes or certain restaurants and things like this. So anything wholesome that you would like to bring into your life, you can do it gradually like this. And it's a more sustainable improvement, and your mind will appreciate this much more. So do you guys have any questions on kind of starting and conducting your meditation session? Let me see if we have any questions online here. All of you guys online, you can put questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I don't see any questions. All right, so now these are, oh, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
So when I am meditating and I do have images come into my head, then it shouldn't be necessarily focused to shift off of those.
Yes, you should. You should cut those off and bring it back to the breath.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's your mindfulness that you're aware of them, but then you're going to train your mind to let go. You'll see here in a moment. Okay, so now here's some words of the Buddha where he's introducing the 4 types of meditation that he taught. He only taught 4 types of meditation. There's hundreds and thousands out there nowadays, but oftentimes those meditations are taking you in the opposite direction of enlightenment itself. And if you're interested in getting to enlightenment, you're going to need to learn what did the Buddha do, because it's his practice and what he did that's actually going to lead to your enlightenment. So prior to this, he was talking about 5 things that it was important for students to be able to develop and cultivate in order to get to enlightenment. And he says, having based himself on these 5 things, the monk should develop further another 4 things. The perception of unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. This is the meditation to eliminate your sexual cravings. If you have really high sexual cravings, there's a meditation to help you with that. Loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. This eliminates anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, irritation, annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, there might be certain people that you dislike, And that's coming from your own mind. It's because of your expectations. It's because of your cravings. You want this person to be a certain way. And if they're that way, you like them. And if they're not that way, you dislike them. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. And it's loving kindness meditation that's going to help you to be able to do that. Mindfulness of breathing or breathing mindfulness meditation should be developed to cut off thoughts. That's what we're focusing on in this class, in this course. And when we say cut off thoughts, it's giving you the ability in meditation to cut things off and let them go. And I'm going to explain to you about this some more. Here, the Buddha is talking about a meditation to help you realize non-self. He says the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit, I am. When one perceives impermanence, the perception of non-self is stabilized. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit, I am, which is nibbana or enlightenment in this very life. So that's a meditation that you learn at another time. The breathing mindfulness is the one that we're focusing on here. Then you normally bring in the loving kindness. Those are the two that everybody's going to need, and you'll understand why tomorrow. And then these other two about eliminating sexual cravings and realizing non-self, these are two specialized meditations that not everyone's going to necessarily need. So here's those same meditations, but what I'm doing is I'm showing you the unwholesome qualities that you're eliminating and the wholesome qualities that you're cultivating. So this breathing mindfulness meditation, we're eliminating craving, desire, attachment, where the mind is longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection. Then you're cultivating this mindfulness or awareness of mind while training the mind to reside in the present moment, practicing concentration or singleness of mind. So you're cultivating the wholesome qualities of mindfulness and concentration, and you're working to eliminate the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning. These others you're going to learn at different times in your journey as you learn and develop on your path to enlightenment. So here's some more teachings from the Buddha on meditation. He says, a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. The pot is the mind. The stand is your meditation practice. A mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent. That's what he's saying here, right? A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. So as you're meditating, that's making your stand wider and wider and wider. As you get 1 week, 1 month, 1 year of meditation practice under your belt, your mind's going to be becoming more and more stable, more and more steady. So it can't be tipped over. So you can't get discontent. So that's what you're doing on the path to enlightenment. Then here he's talking about the importance and the goal of breathing mindfulness meditation. He says, monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge, experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So here what he's saying is there's one goal for this breathing mindfulness meditation. That's to get to enlightenment. Get to the peace, the freedom from strong feelings. He's not saying you only need one thing to get to enlightenment. Otherwise, he would have just taught meditation and that's it. But we've got 45 volumes of books that are this thick, right? He didn't teach just meditation. You need other things besides that. What he's saying is there's one goal for this meditation, and that's to get you to enlightenment. It's kind of like saying your car, it leads to one thing, transportation. Right? That's what it leads to. Your car, it leads to one thing, which is transportation. But you need more in your life than just transportation. You need food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and all these other things. Right? So here he's explaining that this meditation leads to this peace of the enlightened mental state. Now, in terms of conducting your meditation session, you guys have already been meditating a little bit, so you understand how this is done. You're basically focusing on the breath, And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you're cutting that off and letting it go and bringing the mind back to the breath. Your goal here is not to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case based on the guidance. What you're looking to do is notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because when you're in the unenlightened mental state, what's going to happen during meditation is you're going to typically have a bombardment of thoughts where it's going to be like thought, right? Or you're going to have a thought, you're going to indulge in it, you're going to look at it, you're going to play with it. You'll 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. And now you bring your mind back to your breath. So that's what you're experiencing in the unenlightened state. An enlightened mind still experiences thoughts during meditation, but they notice it right away and they cut it off and let it go and bring it back to the breath right away, where there's these long periods of quietness and stillness in the mind. And that's what you're working towards, is to get this quietness and stillness in the mind. So your goal here isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Your goal is to cut off and let go of anything that is arising because you're exercising the mind. It's like taking your mind to the gym and you're building these wholesome qualities so that then in your day-to-day life, you can actually practice with these wholesome qualities. So for example, if I was a professional pole vaulter, I would go into the gym and I would do cardiovascular training, weight training, agility training, things like this. And that looks very different than my sport when I go off and do pole vaulting, right? Here is the same thing. When we go take the mind into training, we're cutting off anything and everything that comes up, wholesome thoughts and unwholesome thoughts, because we're developing mindfulness and awareness of mind and concentration. And we're training the mind to let go, let go, let go. Because with craving, you're going to hold on to things very tightly. You're training your mind to let go. And it's your mindfulness and concentration that's going to help you to be able to see your mind as longing, yearning. So you're training the mind to let go. So now in day-to-day life, you're going to do something different. Whenever you see unwholesome thoughts arising, you cut that off and let it go. When you have a wholesome thought, no need to cut that off and let it go. So if you're at work and you feel like you want to punch your boss in the face, cut that off and let it go. It's going to lead to unwholesome results, right? That's wrong action, right? Cut that off. You see anger and frustration arising? Cut that off. You see conceit arising? Cut that off, right? But if you have the thought that you'd like to take your mom to dinner or to lunch or something, hey, that's generosity. That's wholesome. There's no harm in taking your mom to dinner. Take your mom to dinner if that's what you'd like to do. No need to cut that off, right? So what you're doing in day-to-day life is you're cutting off the unwholesome thoughts that are occurring. And more, you'll get to the point where you purify your mind, you transform your mind, and you won't have unwholesome thoughts any longer because you've completely transformed your mind, right? So this is the way you do it, focusing on the breath. And when the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go, bringing the mind back to the breath. Anything and everything that comes up during meditation, because you're building the ability to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. But then in daily life, just cut off the unwholesome thoughts. Any questions here? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we have plenty of mics. You can grab one. Or maybe the one can pass to you. There you go.
Okay, so my question is how to cut it off, because Hilda told me the same thing as well, but then it's like when something come up, so you say, okay, don't think about it, just like that.
Yeah,
or,
what you do is you internally bring the mind back to the breath. So when you're breathing, that sound, that's like a post or a pillar. And your mind is going to pull like wild animals being tied to a post and pillar. And as your mind's pulling, it keeps getting yanked back to that post and pillar. So if you focus your mind on that sound, and now you notice that the mind moved off that sound, train your mind internally to let go and bring the mind back to the breath. So you're going to need to internally build the ability to let go and come back to the breath so that now the mind's no longer thinking about that thought, but instead it's focused on the sound of the breath. or the sensation of air moving over the skin. That's the post or the pillar. Okay? Your mic's not on.
Sometimes I feel I need anger, I need happy, I need anxious, I need this emotion. What can I do? I feel I have that feelings.
This is your mind clinging to the feelings, holding on to the feelings. The mind has a misperception. You have a lack of wisdom to realize that those feelings aren't helping you. When you're feeling stress and anxiety, when you're feeling fear and lonely and bored, that's not helping you whatsoever. Anger is not helping you whatsoever. It's just causing your mind to be shaken up and unsteady and unstable. And you would like to get to the point where your mind's calm and steady and stable, where it's glad and uplifted, because now you can make wise decisions. If you allow your mind to be shaken up, you can't make wise decisions about what it is that you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And if you make unwise decisions, you're going to experience unwholesome results coming back to you. So you would like to maintain your calmness and composure, even in difficult situations. If you got a phone call that your mom's in the back of an ambulance and she's being rushed to the hospital, she's been in a terrible car accident, the last thing you're interested in doing is rushing out the door, grabbing your keys and running across town to get to the hospital, because you're more likely to get into a car accident yourself. Or at the very least, you're going to show up to the hospital and the doctors and nurses are trying to talk to you so you can make some wise decisions to help your mom, but your mind's all shaken up. You can't even listen. You can't even comprehend what the doctors are saying. So these feelings, these conditioned feelings, are just causing the mind to be unstable and unsteady. Instead, you can get that news that your mom's been in a terrible car accident. Okay, mom's been in a terrible car accident. Let me make my way to the hospital. And now you calmly make your way to the hospital. You show up. You listen to the doctors and nurses, you make some wise decisions, and you help mom. So these feelings that people are holding on to, it's not actually helping you at all. It's actually causing more and more difficulties because you can't make wise decisions that are going to produce wholesome results around you. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Now, the last thing I'll share on this topic, this is the words of the Buddha. He says, meditate, monks. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. What he's saying is when you're angry and you're frustrated, when you're lonely and bored, when you're feeling guilty and shameful, you're going to regret having not meditated, right? This isn't the Buddha guilting, shaming, or fearing you into doing meditation. This is the only thing you're ever going to see the Buddha just kind of saying, okay, go meditate, right? He never uses guilt, shame, and fear, because why would he use guilt, shame, and fear to help you eliminate guilt, shame, and fear? He's not going to do that, right? So here he's kind of motivating you and saying, hey, you're going to regret having not meditated. If you're angry and sad and guilty and shameful and fearful, you're going to regret these kinds of things. One time my son came into my room at like 11, maybe midnight, 1 a.m. He said, Dad, I can't go to sleep. I'm having bad dreams. Or not bad dreams. He said, I'm thinking about things and I can't fall asleep. I said, what are you thinking about? He said, they showed a scary movie in school today and I can't get it out of my mind. I keep thinking about it over and over and over again. And I said, have you been meditating? He said, nope. I said, remember the words of the Buddha. You're going to be regretting it later if you don't meditate, right? Because this is his thing. He couldn't let go of those thoughts from his class that they watched this scary movie, right? So you're going to regret having not meditated. So be sure to be dedicated and diligent. Don't allow your mind to be complacent in these situations. One of the things that I would say is never give up. Because if you give up on your meditation practice, it's basically like saying, I'm going to be angry for the rest of my life. I'm going to be stressed the rest of my life. I give up. I'm just going to feel guilty and shameful the rest of my life. I'm going to feel fear the rest of my life. So don't ever give up. There was a period of time where I went 3 years without meditating. It was the worst 3 years I ever experienced. I never gave up. I came back to it, but I thought I had given up, right? But you're not interested in giving up. If you go away from meditation for a couple of days because you've been focused on other things, okay, just get back into it. In order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to consistently meditate for multiple years 2 or 3 times a day for multiple years. But as you're building up your meditation practice, you're going to slip up here and there. It's just like when we were learning to take a shower and brush our teeth as a little kid. We were really interested in playing and having fun. And our parents were like, go take a shower, go brush your teeth, go take a shower, go brush your teeth, right? They kept telling us over and over and over again. And they had to remind us of doing that. But at some point, we were maybe 10, 12, 14 years old. We were like, I kind of like feeling fresh. I kind of like that nice fresh taste in my mouth. You know what? I'm going to start taking a shower by myself now. Mom and dad don't have to tell me anymore, right? And that's because we saw the benefits of taking a shower and brushing our teeth. But early on, we didn't see that. So we were more interested in playing. But once we saw the benefits, then we were interested in doing it ourselves. So the meditation is the same way. You're going to need to accumulate enough of the benefits of meditation that you see the benefits, and you're going to get to the point where you can't even imagine going a day without meditating. You're going to need that every single day, 2 or 3 times a day to meditate. And eventually you'll see enough benefits and you can't even imagine not meditating in a day. Just like you clean this body every day, you're going to need to clean the mind. If you're only cleaning the body right now, and that's what you've been taught to do, you're not addressing the entire being. There's a whole nother part to this being that you're not addressing, which is the mind. And this is why you've experienced anger and frustration and sadness and all these other discontent feelings, because you're only cleaning the body. But if you clean the mind, now you can have a real impact and transform your mind. Okay? So this is the Buddha explaining not to be complacent. So meditate, students. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. Right? This is my instruction to you. Okay.
Is it necessary to close your eyes when you meditate? Because, for example, when you wait for the bus, it's a little weird that you close your eyes when you're in the queue. Is it necessary to close your eyes?
When you close your eyes, you're shutting down one of your senses, and you have a tendency to go inward, and you look inward more, and you can observe what's going on in the mind better because you don't have all this stimulation with the eyes. So it's best if you close your eyes. There is 2 meditations that we do with our eyes open, which is the meditation to eliminate sexual cravings and the walking meditation. We do those with our eyes open. But where possible, you would like to close the eyes and focus the mind on the breath. That would be ideal. If you're standing there waiting for the bus, you'll hear it when it comes. Don't worry. And if you're worried about how other people are perceiving you with your eyes closed standing there, that's your personal existence view, wanting to be perceived by others a certain way. So if you stand there with your eyes closed waiting for the bus, don't worry, you'll hear it when it's coming. And then when it comes, you just look up and like, oh yeah, that's my bus. And now you get on the bus, right? And then you can even meditate on the bus too, if you like.
Also, if you are in a negative emotion, for example, you are like worrying or angry, is it a time that you can meditate as well?
Yes, you can. The Buddha teaches that the breathing mindfulness meditation will eliminate evil, unwholesome mental states on the spot, right? But if you haven't been meditating, it's not like you can meditate right now, like you're angry and you meditate right now and now it's going to immediately do it. It's not like a quick fix. But if you've been accumulating the benefits of meditation over multiple months and you're noticing that you're angry, now you can sit down and meditate and it'll take care of it. But right now, if you haven't been meditating, if you got angry and tried to meditate, it might not immediately take care of it. But if you accumulate a few weeks, a few months of meditation, you'll be able to see that in the moment when you're angry, you know it's not the proper time to talk. Go to your room, go away from your life partner, your family member, whoever it is, go away, go meditate. And your mind will regain its composure because you're cutting off and letting go, cutting off and letting go, cutting off and letting go. And this is what's going to help you to regain your composure. And you'll see that it'll be more effective the more you accumulate the benefits of the meditation. Your mind will mature and mature and mature and mature.
And back to your answer, and then when you said that you need to cut off is when you breathe, then something come up. So you just go back to your breath again when you realize it instead of entertaining the thought. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see if we have any questions here. I don't see any questions anywhere else. You guys would like to do some meditation? Yeah, you like to do some? Does anyone need a bathroom break? Looks like Jake might need a bathroom. No? Oh, you're getting the chanting sheet. Okay. No bathroom breaks? Okay. So, yeah, if you guys would like to get the chanting sheet, we'll go into the meditation with the chanting. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to give you guys some light guidance this time because you've already been meditating 3 times. You're going to need to learn how to meditate on your own. So I'm just going to give you some light guidance, just a little bit, so that way you can start learning how to meditate on your own without needing so much guidance. Okay? Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatava Manusranam Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you'd like to just establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Focus the mind on the breath. Whenever it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาโพตังมะกะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะกะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโหโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. You guys have any questions on meditation? Anything you guys would like to ask? No? Okay. Well, tomorrow we're going to be starting off in the morning with chanting and meditation, give you guys another chance to practice that. Then I'm going to share a talk with you guys on what's called the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. Today you got a window into the unenlightened mind through the 4 noble truths that you understand as craving, desire, attachment. That is a problem. But we're going to broaden your understanding of this, and we're going to deepen it through helping you understand the 3 poisons. There's actually 3 individual things that the Buddha talks about. There's additional things besides, and then also the solutions. Then we're going to be discussing the 5 precepts. These are going to help you to further understand the Eightfold Path. Then we're going to be spending the afternoon doing walking meditation. I'm going to teach that to you and help you practice it as well. So enjoy your evening. Perhaps you're going to get another meditation in this evening. If you'd like to insert that into your meditation or into your day, that'd be really great. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in learning these teachings. And perhaps we'll see you guys another time. Take care. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.